Hello, everybody. You are listening to Foodie Friday on the Alive and Social Network. Coming in hot, always fresh, never stale.
Never stale.
Thanks for listening. I am your co-host, Lydia Turner. Sitting across from me is my dad. Say hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad. I'm BT Brian Turner, and joining us in the Alive and Social Network studio today, Paul Franzik's here. Let's say hello to Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Paul, before we got started on the show today, he made it clear that he'd like to be known as Raul. So I don't know, we might get mixed up in the midst of it all here. We'll just see how that all plays out.
It's fun to get mixed up.
Is it easy to get mixed up?
We'll find out.
And Molly Herman is here as well. Molly is the proprietor of Kitchen in the Market and Taste Bud Tart Catering. Good to see you, Molly Herman.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Howdy to you, too. Do you want a pseudonym in the midst of the show, or is Molly going to work out just fine for you?
You know, I'm game.
You're game, so we might shake it up a little bit?
Yeah.
He might be Raul. You might be Paul. Who knows?
I think she said it's.
I think we can think of something better. Let's work on that.
I thought she was.
No offense, Raul.
Thought she was going with "I'm game." I like that.
Just call me Game.
Hello, Game. Welcome to the show.
Game.
Yeah, put a little accent on there. Molly, give us a little bit about your background, and I mean on a personal level. You know, where'd you grow up, and tell us about your family, and sort of like early food experiences for you as well. But you know, let's start with just Molly. I mean, where are you from?
Sure. I grew up in a small town in Florida, Plant City, Florida.
We'd already talked about this.
We did. We have a little Florida connection, Central Florida connection.
Central
And
Florida.
what was the name of the city you said?
Plant City.
Plant City. So where is it in Central Florida?
It is in Central Florida, sort of between Tampa and Orlando, which makes it sound like a metropolis.
So near Dade.
But it is
so
not.
Near Dade City.
It is right down the road from Dade City.
Okay, all right.
My
Zephyr
husband
Hills
has
and Dade
family that
City.
lives in Dade City.
All right, gotcha. Because that's the connection Lydia has, and I have too. In that my business partner Kev and his wife Andy, they're event managers for this very cool ranch in the Dade City area, and Lydia's worked down there on several different occasions. That's a beautiful part of Florida.
Well, she can attest that it is not a metropolis.
It is not a
It's
metropolis.
it's a lot of cows and horses and farmland,
swamping
right?
and
yeah,
a lot
we,
of fruit.
We did talk alligators a little bit.
Where was that one restaurant that we liked in Dade City? It was that Greek shop, Cocopelli?
That wasn't there though. That was in Ybor City.
Oh, that was in Ybor City. Yeah.
Oh, what about lunch on Limoges? Did you guys
Lunch
ever go
on
to
the
Lunch
Moge is so good.
I always used to go there for my birthdays with my grandmother.
They have awesome cakes.
You get dressed up and you go and act like a real lady with the teacups and all that kind of stuff.
They serve dinner like once a month or
Right, because it's a sleepy little town.
It's super sleepy.
We should ask Raul just quickly, even though we're at a Molly Groove
Have you
right
been
now.
to Dade City?
Have you been to that part of the world there, Raul?
You're talking Florida.
Yeah, that central part of Florida.
I just eat gator when I'm down there.
As you
Tastes
should.
like chicken.
And they have it.
Yeah. It's
like
Oh,
lobster
boy, do they
chicken.
ever.
No, I don't remember. I think there was a place right along Alligator Alley that was something like Something's Meats Can't Be Beat. It was a smoke shack that I remember eating at and going more than
Skippers?
once. I'll try to remember the name of it.
Right on.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different than sort of those beef jerky shops that you might find in Minnesota or anywhere else. It's gator. Okay, then. Gator.
There's Skipper's Smoke Shop. That's pretty close to Dade City. That's still in Central as you're coming back from Tampa, heading northeast.
Yeah.
Skipper Smoke Shop, and they have really cool. It's a music venue. They have fresh gator because there's a person designated to each community to hunt gator, the ones that get too big or rascally.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And I think
When they get too friendly
Rascal
around,
gator.
when they get too friendly or not so scared of
humans.
afraid of the humans,
Sure,
right?
yep. They
Right.
hide under your car and stuff.
Really.
It happens.
And ambush
It
you.
happens. It
Yeah.
happens.
When did you move up to Minnesota? I mean, were you there as a kid?
It was
you know?
like, so my husband and I both grew up in Plant City, and I grew up on a farm. My family grows strawberries and other crops as well, but that was sort of the primary thing. So I went to school for nutrition in Tallahassee. And then we sort of moved around. We lived in Atlanta for a little while while my husband was in school at Georgia Tech. And then he entered into a graduate program in San Diego in La Jolla, so we lived there for 6 years.
Bummer.
And then we moved here.
Tough duty.
I
right?
know, it was really rough. And then we moved here.
All right. So, and how long have you been here then?
We've been here for 13 years now.
Nice. Very
Yeah,
good.
we like it.
Yeah, you like the Minnesota groove, huh?
We do.
How about the winter thing?
We came for the weather.
It
It's
did,
awesome.
The Four Seasons. Yeah.
I have to say, we moved for his job, but it is, having grown up in Florida, the Four Seasons are still sort of novel to us. You know, like we never grew up with snow or even a fall. Didn't really understand what spring fever was about because, you know, we grew up in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shorts
It's all-
at Christmas. It seems wrong.
the world of entrepreneurship is what you're pursuing in the food world. Give us a little insight as to what your husband does.
So my husband is a scientist and a manager at Boston Scientific. Used to be Guidant
Yeah.
Corporation. So he works on pacemakers, defibrillators,
Medical
stuff for your heart.
medical stuff, medical device stuff. Very cool. Very cool. How long have you had Kitchen in the Market going?
Well, I actually started Taste Bud longer ago. It was, and that's my catering company. Started that about 7 to 8 years ago, and I was in need of a kitchen to get a license in catering. You need a commercial kitchen space.
Yep.
You know something about that, BT, and it's really expensive, especially when you're starting out. And so there was a group of us that sort of banded together. Jenny Breen, who used to have Good Life Catering, sort of got us all together, and there were 10 of us, and the Midtown Global Market had an open space. And they said, sure, why don't you guys have a go? Use the space, manage yourselves.
So you formed
see
a
what
coalition,
happens.
actually.
We did.
Yeah.
It was sort of a cooperative. And myself and Beth Fisher, who's now at Wiseacre Eatery, we wound up being sort of the de facto managers. We had a waiting list the entire time we were there. And we just didn't have room. It was small. It's where, if you've been to the market, it's where Sonora Grill is now. It was very small. And while we were in that space, I started teaching a class called Cooking the Market, really to celebrate Midtown Global Market and show the diversity that's there and all the different ingredients. And it was becoming very popular. And eventually the market was willing to build out another area, or let somebody else build it out. They helped. But it was usually just events seating and all that kind of good stuff. So my husband was like, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
And so we opened up Kitchen in the Market 4.5 years ago.
Very nice. Very nice. Good for you. What's your first big food memory? Does it go back to being a kid in Florida? I mean, that first one
gosh.
just, sticks with
Yeah.
you. Sticks with you.
And growing up in the South, there's so many food memories because every sort of social situation revolves around food. Yeah. But picking blackberries with my grandmother at the farm, and it wasn't cultivated. They were growing in the ditch. We had a whole, 100 acres of strawberries, but that I didn't really recall. It was picking the blackberries in the ditch that was my first food memory. Probably.
Was your family farm? It was strictly strawberries.
During the winter.
Okay.
So strawberries are a winter crop in Florida because it stays cool enough. It doesn't get too hot for the berries. And then in the summer, they changed over to different things.
That was the weirdest part, was going to a farmer's market in February. And you're like, oh, look at all of this fresh fruit. And the
Right.
strawberries are
Well,
so
yeah.
big.
Especially the strawberries.
Yep.
Yeah.
Strawberries and it's citrus season. That's when
Yep.
oranges are the best, grapefruit. So, yeah.
Interesting. Paul Franzik, why don't you step up to that mic? Or dare I say, Raul, could you get a little bit closer?
Can you speak in Spanish?
I'd love to be able to.
One of the Romance languages.
I don't know what it will be, but
I am with him. I'm Mrs. Galicias.
I'm going to tell you right now how much I like the smells in this room.
It is
smells
sort of a
fun.
mix of, I believe you'd call it a human musk.
I call it the feet and the patchouli mix
Now it sounds like a Woodstock
with
gathering.
the red.
With Antonio Banderas. He just swung right by.
It was a little more Puss in Boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Nasonex.
In his role, or Nathan. Paul, give our Foodie Friday listeners some background on you, Paul Franzik, musician Paul, and we'll get into the food narrative that you're bringing to the show today. But folks might know you and your brother from playing in the Twin Cities area over the years.
Yeah, my brother is older, 3.5 years older than me. He dragged me into all sorts of good things. He was an exceptional brother. I mean, which at 48 years old now matters to me. He included me, weirdly enough, in everything. All through high school, he'd have parties. He'd be going to parties. He'd bring along his kid brother. And for whatever reason, that worked. And we got into bands when I was, 10th, 11th grade. We were playing First Avenue and 7th Street Entry, and had to deal with all that underage kind of, you better not drink or you'll never play this town again kind
Right.
of stuff. And then we started playing music on our own, probably, I don't know, I guess it's probably 15 years ago now. And we did probably 9 CDs as the Brothers Franzik. We used to play an annual holiday show at the Pantages Theater. And but we crossed paths all the way back through the years several times.
Yeah, you and
When-
I did,
yeah,
absolutely, in
when
my
we-
roles on different radio stations and shows and things like that. Mm-hmm.
And I have always loved singing with him. We've both been, I moved to Colorado a few years ago. I came back rather recently, but we had solo careers during that time. And now that we've been back, we just did, I forget how much I love playing with him, but we just did 2 tributes to Robert Bly, the poet, because we've worked with him for the last decade or more, I guess since about 2001. And we just did one for this big writers conference down at the convention center on Saturday, and we did another one at Plymouth Congregational Church last night, I guess, or 2 nights ago. And I forget just how much. It's so easy to play with him and so easy to sing with him. It's like the most natural thing in the world. So that's my relationship with Tim, and then I grew up out on Lake Minnetonka, had a very troubled life on the south shore of Wayzata Bay. If we didn't have gas money for the boat, that was a big deal for me.
This day turned out terrible. Not only no gas money, but we're out of shrimp and foie gras. God, yeah, I hate my life.
But, we'd have one of my early food memories was my dad was one of the leaders at the Christian Medical Society, and he had a custom-made grill for this event every year with filet steaks for, I'm guessing, 250 people. And the grill that he had made was as big as this table that we're at. And my uncle Bill Sievert would sit there with the chef hat and flip steaks, and he taught me how to poke a steak and tell me if it was raw, medium, or well done.
Nice.
Yeah.
A skill set you carry forward to this day.
I do try, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that there's secrets. I know that there's like parts of the hand that you can touch, and that's a part of it, but I could not tell you what that is.
Well, I didn't learn the hand piece, but yeah, I just kind of, he'd have so many, probably 80 steaks at a time on this thing. So
wow.
he'd kind of be like, that one feels like this, that one feels like that. And I felt,
What happened to the grill?
It's probably used as an anchor for a sailboat somewhere out in Wayzata Bay.
If it's out there somewhere, let me know.
But one of those big, shallow guys where you could slide the coals in and out underneath.
That would have been ideal, but because Bill Sievert was also the manufacturer of this big grill, he had a metal shop, it was too deep. And so my dad would put about, a 20-pound bag of charcoal, he'd probably have 7 in there, and the thing became so dangerous. And then we'd have to wait hours for it to kind of cool down. But I do remember, walking through the backyard and going, I can feel it. I'm 15 feet away.
The heat from the grill alone. Captain, we're approaching the sun.
Exactly.
You are founder of the nonprofit organization Feed Them with Music. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that got started? And was there a specific memory that you have that kind of triggered this happening? I know that on your website it said that you had a dream one night.
I did.
Was it actually a dream, or was there another moment before then that kind of triggered this happening?
All of the above. I was one of the gazillion people in this town that was exposed to this company called Feed My Starving Children. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching their video and these Haitian cakes where the kids are so hungry they just make mud and seawater, and they make these cakes and they eat the mud in order to just put something in their stomach so they can sleep at night. And I was, and BT knows this, we have a friend, Jeff Arundel. I worked with Jeff at that time. We were doing music programs for major retailers around the country. And I loved doing strategy around music and solving problems with that. And I went to bed quite tormented by holy cow, within 90 minutes of Miami, this is going on. And we're doing millions of dollars of music out of these retailers. Can't we figure something out here? And that night I had a dream, and it was basically like a cockfight situation where it was if you're going to have hunger and this horrible thing that doesn't fight fair, it goes after the weakest and the children first and all this stuff, what could stand against that, really? Anger doesn't work. Guns don't work. Might doesn't work. But this love energy of music, I thought, wow, that'd be kind of cool. So connecting music to hunger-related issues has been really from that next morning on my passion. And I'm not the one out there Sean Penn. I do go to Haiti often and things, but I really love to strategize. I like to think about a specific artist. I like to find a song. The latest project we're working on is something called Fed by Grace, which is taking the song, most recorded and performed song in history, Amazing Grace, and exposing as many artists to it as possible, because everybody, including everyone in this room, has an Amazing Grace story. And so I'm looking at making some documentary films and taking those songs and making the downloads and profits from them go toward whatever the artist's specific charitable interest might be.
It's really true, Paul, whether you're a religious person, spiritual, humanist, secularist, you can identify with
that song.
The word and the term and the thought of grace, and then amazing grace. You really can. Yeah, you really can.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I have some, many stories from recording that song specifically too that are quite like, just it transcends all races and all theologies, and it's quite a unique piece. Yeah.
We're going to dig a little more into the situation in Port-au-Prince and the work that Feed Them with Music is doing there. But I want to get a few words from my co-host and my daughter Lydia, because this is kind of a unique week on Foodie Friday, and for her, because she's diving in big time into the foodie world. Well, I should say a little more so into the deep end of the pool. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
So a couple of things to share here on the show. This is pretty neat.
It is neat. No, I just landed 2 really incredible jobs within the foodie community. I have a job at Coastal Seafoods, and that's in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. And then I also have a job at Indeed Brewery as of yesterday. So
Yeah, good for you.
we're going to learn a little bit more about fishies and seafood, and sounds like a good adventure to me. That's such a daunting world. There's a lot of different fish and things that come out of the sea that they just look funny. And I'm learning how to prepare them myself. So there will definitely be more communication and talking about preparing stuff on this podcast in regards to fish specifically.
Am I right that you can go to Coastal and get sushi grade stuff to make your own sushi?
Yes,
right?
you
'Cause that's-
can. Yep.
I would love to do that.
I brought home a sashimi grade marlin fillet the other day and pan-seared that one, and it was fantastic.
We're blessed with some really good purveyors here in this area.
Yep.
Certainly Coastal Seafoods, the Fish Guys,
Yep.
and others.
Maury's.
Maury's. But what's so cool is that they get sometimes fresher product, and we get, in turn, fresher product here in St. Paul, Minneapolis, than some places right next to the ocean.
Yep.
It's kind of screwy. It's kind of crazy. New York City eaters that order a lobster are probably eating a less fresh lobster in New York, Maine lobster is what I mean to say, than you will probably eat at a restaurant that's serving lobster here in St. Paul, Minneapolis.
Do you think is that because of Delta's presence or something?
Well, you know what it is. You bring up the flying thing, though, and
No,
that's
really.
part of
It is.
it.
If you're
No,
a
it
hub,
is.
you get the
Yeah, because if they're catching lobster in Maine to go to Boston or New York City, they're refrigerating them and storing them properly, but putting them on trucks, and then they're making their way down the road surfaces to get to the city, and they've got stops along the way. But here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we're getting lobster that are going from the boat to a truck in a very short route to an aircraft, and then boom, it's flown in here 3 hours later.
They're picking up fresh food every day.
It's amazing.
5 a.m. at the airport every day.
And lobsters is just one of those stories,
Yep.
among many other fish products and ocean products. Yeah, but here, landlocked in the middle of the nation.
So no, anybody listening, come visit me. I'll be there.
It's not my show, but can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. We should have made that clear because that's what this show is about. So if we're chatting with Molly about something, you want to ask Molly something, or you got to react.
you
Yeah,
must
you say
respond
it
as Raul for me though.
back. Yeah, right.
Please.
Exactly. Only.
I only answer questions from Raul.
and I want you to use let's just call it an Armenian accent as you ask Lydia a question. If it's I have no idea
No pressure.
what that accent sounds like.
What is your favorite fish, and what is the favorite preparation of it?
I'm a big fan of pan-searing things. Just kind of flash frying it. It's really quick, mostly because I overcook fish. I'm more prone to doing that than I am to actually have it the right way. So pan-searing one side for 30 seconds tops, other side 30 seconds tops, and then being able to eat the little bit of a pink in the middle and actually taste the fish instead of having an overcooked, like broiled or stewed fish. And honestly, I think my new favorite is marlin. I tried it for the first time, and it's really, really good. And I wouldn't have even thought about it. I've had swordfish before, I've had tuna before, I've had salmon before, but marlin was definitely one that I eyed in the case and I was like, I think we're going to try this one. But yeah, I'm a big fan of tuna, ahi tuna, any kind of Atlantic salmon, smoked, grilled, anything, really.
Yeah, I love it. Most ocean fish I just love.
How about you? What's your favorite?
In It's hard to say a favorite. I'm a big sushi fan, but I remember one of my entry level kind of pieces was at the Oceanair as a younger man, and they had the blackened marlin, black and blue marlin with blue cheese on top of it, and I remember just going like, this is the most amazing
just
piece
the
of
height of
fish.
Molly, you were kind of going cheese on fish. Is that what you were
Cheese
saying?
and fish is not, a normal
It's
combination.
true. It's true, but it was
I'm
something
sure it
that
was
really struck
lovely.
you.
I love blue.
Oh, it had
blue
that
cheese.
Cajun thing going with the blue cheese, and then it's such a heavy cut
Yeah.
of fish that it felt like I was eating, something that was from the earth,
Yeah.
the land rather than the
Rather
ocean.
than the ocean, yeah.
It's like a pork chop. I was just talking about this. It has the consistency and almost sponginess of a pork chop. It's just thick and dense and meaty.
Let's go down the line here. How about you, Molly? As long as we're on a seafood jag
Ooh,
here.
well, I grew up in Florida, near
Yeah.
the Gulf Coast. So I
Exactly.
grew up on grouper, which is still one of my favorites, and red snapper. But we also vacationed in North Carolina, and they had lots of rainbow trout.
Oh,
So I love all of that. But what we've been cooking with a lot at the kitchen is a lot of Arctic char. And mainly because when we do cooking classes, and we have a lot of different cooking classes, we can get a really good size whole fish to teach people how to work with that in a reasonable price point.
Yeah.
And or if you haven't had Arctic char, it's very similar to salmon. It has that sort of that pinky flesh, flakes really nicely, has a meaty taste, but not overly fishy. It's a good one to work with.
For me, a barramundi or cedar planked coho salmon, wild coho salmon with that cedar planking, because I just dig those aromas, that come out of that cedar. It's just amazing how that changes the taste, but also maintains the flavor profile that the salmon has in the first place.
There's one that I'm really intrigued to try, a monkfish. I don't know if either of you have tried
is
it.
I've
good,
had that.
yeah.
Yep.
The poor man's lobster is what it's called.
Yeah.
And it's an anglerfish. And actually, if you Google an image of a monkfish, they have all these wonky teeth. And
Yeah, they're not pretty.
They're not pretty, but their meat looks super pretty. And I am very excited to try that one.
Do you as a kid, I can speak to Lydia as a kid, she would get into things on television that were always about dissection and they're good
Plastic
they're doing
surgeries.
kneecap surgery. Okay, I'll watch that. Hey, how's it going, Lyd? Do you want another fruit cup? She's like 6 years old. No, I'm fine. I got
It's
one
cool.
right here. Yep, I'm just gonna watch a little knee surgery here on the Discovery Channel. Back when they showed things like that on the Discovery Channel.
Or it was like E! Network with like the breast augmentation or rhinoplasties. And
yeah.
Well-rounded childhood.
yes. Just enraptured by everybody getting opened up.
Yeah, are you sure you don't want to watch like a movie? No, this is fine. Oh, I'm good, Dad. Thanks, appreciate that. Leave me alone for
I've
a minute.
always liked seeing things opened up.
So now the grossness of maybe a fish, from that external view, that's going to be kind of fun to dig in there and pull out what the treasure is.
Game on.
Away we go. Just wear those heavy gloves when it comes to the urchin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I do
remember
like urchin,
that. I
though.
do too. I love the urchin. I spent time in the service in Crete, Greece, and there's a lot of urchin on the menu, a lot of great seafood on the menu. But the urchin always was surprising how much I enjoyed it, because you wanted to avoid those rascals, obviously, when you're out there snorkeling or swimming. But ooh, that is one tasty seafood delight.
And what is it like? They must take inside the kind of exoskeleton piece of it. Is it like meaty, or is it?
Yeah, it's sort of oyster-like, but a little more meaty, and
It's orange.
and it's orange.
And it's really
yeah.
creamy.
Mhm, yeah,
You have
that's
to prepare it correctly, or it can go horribly wrong.
Yeah, it sure can.
But I think Mike DeCamp is going to have a bunch of that on his menu at Manello.
at the new shop in the Ivy Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Oh, that sounds great.
I'm going to have to go.
We're in.
Yeah.
We're all in. What's the menu like at Kitchen in the Market? I mean, what's the general layout of what people get treated
What do
to
we do?
at the hands of Molly Herman and Company?
Oh gosh, that's daunting sounding. We're actually, so let me just explain a little bit more about what we are. So
Yeah.
we're a shared commercial kitchen space.
So
and
it still is.
It still is.
That's really cool.
And a cooking school. So, caterers, food manufacturers, food trucks all need licensed space to run their businesses, but they don't necessarily need it full time. So we have about between 13 and 16 businesses that rent from us to sort of do their thing. And then we have these classes that are open to the public, as well as we do more private events than anything else, honestly, corporate team building, bachelorette parties, all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff. And so for our classes, the menu just varies depending on the class, but we have a lot of different fun classes. I was just telling you before we started, we have a psychic supper.
I saw that on your calendar.
Coming up next Thursday. Yeah, come on by if you'd like, guys. I would like to. So we have Christine Schroeder, who is a local psychic and is really good. We bring people in. We have a gluten-free menu, sort of healthy mind, body, spirit sort of thing, and everybody gets 10 minutes with the psychic. It's super fun.
Obviously the joke is if I had any powers in that regard at all, you wouldn't have had to tell me the date.
Of course not.
I know.
And you already know what's on the menu.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Right?
So that's fun. I mean, it's a lot of different varied activities for you folks there.
It is.
And for you specifically, your organization specifically.
Exactly. So again, lots of different classes. One of our signature series that we have is called Chef's Night Off. And we bring in a working restaurant chef. So we've had most of the, chefs in town come through our restaurant, which we've been very fortunate to have relationships with them. They come in, you get to 16 people, pay a lot of money to come cook with them in a very intimate atmosphere. It's sponsored by, we have a wine sponsor, Amuse, Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine sponsors it. We get a couple of celebrity assistants. So it becomes a real big party.
Yeah.
And then it all benefits a charity that we partner with for the year. So this year it's Share Our Strength or No Kid Hungry. You've probably heard of the No Kid Hungry campaign.
I have a psychic idea of what one.
Lay it on me, Ro.
Feed them with music.
Feed them with music. You are more than welcome to come to
perhaps.
any Chef's Night Off. Let's do it.
I'm channeling this 2016. Feed them with
Feed
music.
them with music.
So I'm curious, with your background, you went to college, graduated with nutrition degree. How does that get reflected in kind of the work that you do now? Where has that taken you? Is it anywhere in kind of what you do?
It really is in an unexpected way. I mean, I worked in healthcare for a number of years as a nutritionist.
Okay.
And then when we moved here from San Diego, I started doing more personal chef work that wound up going into catering. But what I found I was uniquely set up for was dietary restrictions. So anybody that had dietary restrictions or now all the food allergies that are out there, we can handle those no problem with catering or with a cooking class.
Yeah.
So we could even make last minute adjustments because for instance, our Cooking the Market class, we take a tour of the market and make up dinner on the fly. So we don't know what we're making that night. So even if we have a vegan, somebody that's allergic to peanuts and someone who doesn't eat dairy,
you find something.
We will make up a menu and make modifications on the spot to accommodate those folks. So it's not an issue.
Let me
It's
help
a
paint a
little bit
picture
easy.
too for our Foodie Friday listeners that might not know much about Midtown Global Market. It's been around for a number of years. Can you speak to how many years it's been now? Is it 10?
6. I think they're 6. They're
but
going on the
6, okay.
seventh year, I think.
Okay, and it's the old Sears building
The old Sears building.
on Lake Street. Near Chicago, and it's been repurposed as really what the name implies. It's the Midtown Global Market. There are food vendors, grocers, but other non-food vendors and other businesses.
Sure, retail outlets.
Retail outlets that reflect the globe,
Yeah.
reflect countries across the globe.
And I think that was the general overall principle was they wanted to have representations from all over the globe, but it's a public market. So when you walk in, you can get, your groceries. You can get bread from the Salty Tart. You can get local cheese from Grassroots Gourmet. You can get, now you can get beer at East Lake Brewery because there's a tap room there now.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
it's a true public market, and the term global sometimes throws people off, but it's a fun place to be.
My good friend Morgan bought a house 2 blocks from there based on the fact that it was 2 blocks from Midtown
perfect.
Global Market. Yeah, because he just knew that would be a kind of resource in his urban style of living that he'd want to have nearby and that he'd want to be able to access, easily and quickly. So you go and you shop in the market, to use that as an
Exactly.
example again of what you do with the cooking in the kitchen classes. And as you said, sometimes you just need to make it up on the fly to include those restrictions or those things that need to be omitted rather than included.
Correct. And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest piece where I have found my nutrition background coming in. And then my son, has food allergies, so that sort of informs what I do. And we have lots of people that are interested in other classes too that we're offering, like Paleo Lifestyle or AIP. We have some of those classes coming up with Stephanie Meyer. And so, we really want to be a resource, but it's still a fun, learning, active, interactive, hands-on cooking environment.
Yeah, very fun. And same thing with your catering work too?
Catering work, yes. So a lot of that, that nutrition part comes out. And, we try to make it healthier fare. But, if you really want buffalo wings, we'll give you buffalo wings. If you really want pimento cheese, we do a heck of a job at pimento cheese.
Darn right they do. And it was the Taste Bud Tart Catering that began the whole thing then for you.
It is.
Yeah. That's neat. That's neat. So you got the on the road thing going, and then sort of a brick and mortar thing of your own choosing.
Exactly.
Are you still the manager, the coordinator of the 13 or so that are a part of the kitchen then?
I'm the owner.
So you're the owner.
So,
I got you. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So all the blessings and curses that come with that, yep, that's me.
That's indeed you. Hey, we need to throw some props out to one of our fellow shows on the Alive and Social Network here, and then we'll get into a little conversation with Paul Franzik, a.k.a. Raul, about Feed Them with Music and specifically what's going on in Port-au-Prince, Haiti with Paul, and also with both Molly and Paul. There's a couple of events happening this weekend. And Molly's tied into the Minneapolis Public Schools fundraiser that's happening this weekend, and Paul's got an event that's tied in to Feed Them with Music. But let's throw some props out to the Great Northern Sex Cast, hosted by Kelly Guest and Colleen Bertino. You hear that show right here on the Alive and Social Network.
Tuesdays here on the Alive and Social Network. I believe that is at 10:30 in the morning. They are live every Tuesday, or you can always find them online at your leisure, aliveandsocial.com, or you can check it out on Spreaker. But you can join longtime radio personality and producer Kelly Guest and CEO of Fantasy Gifts Colleen Bertino as they talk about all things bedroom. Men, women, lend them your ears and learn everything you wanted to know about sex and intimacy only on the Alive and Social Network.
Happy to give them props on the Foodie Friday show because conversations about what happens in the boudoir and being happy about that part of your life goes hand in hand with being happy about what you're putting in your belly. What you're putting in your tummy. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. When did you have that epiphany dream? Was that before the earthquake in Haiti?
Yeah, well before.
Yeah, well, I thought so.
Yeah.
Well before.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of helping Haitians was on the map and was already moving forward for you before the earthquake happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get that timeline and say it verbally here just to kind of paint that picture again.
Well, there was a really smart guy named Jeff Dykstra who works with General Mills, and he's a brilliant person in putting feeding programs together. And I spent some time with him. I was just working off of the model early on with Feed Them with Music of Feed My Starving Children, and I was sending donations to them. But shortly after the earthquake, a gentleman named Paul Miller connected with me from Haitian Justice Alliance down in Northfield, and he wanted us to do a show in Northfield. So we did, and like the way the universe works, I very casually told him after the show, hey, if you're ever going down there, I'd love to go with you sometime. And come July, he said, we're going, I'd like you to come with. And so I went down there, and I was terrified.
July of?
2010.
Yep. So right
shortly
after the earthquake.
Yep. And, it's worth getting nervous about going down there because you go down to meet the best part of who you are, who you don't usually meet in the streets of Minneapolis, at least in my life. And I met a woman down there at that time who ran the Sopadep school by the name of Rhea Dahl. And she, without a doubt, is the most profoundly powerful spirit, that is living in this temporary body of ours that I've ever met. And I kind of got the idea after meeting her of this whole drop your nets and follow somebody. And I asked her, what do you need? And she told me a number of what the things she needs, and also just that to keep the food program going, which had been stopped at the earthquake and had not been reinstated. It's the only meal these kids get a day, and that's why the school is very successful, because kids come from miles around to eat and then get educated. At that time, I think her school was right around 450 to 550. Today, it's 860 some. And I went home thinking, I have to figure out how to do this. And in a very cavalier way, I stepped forward in October with some friends, and we started doing it, not realizing, of course, that it would just get bigger and that there's always a new group of kindergartners, and it isn't something like that you can do for a few years. And so now I'm well into it since 2010, and I'm really at a point of just getting very good at asking for help. Like, with you, BT. I
Or
commonly
with
reach
anyone,
out,
yeah. But you know,
And-
that's what it's all about
yeah.
when you're trying to help an initiative move forward. Is you just have to put it out there.
And the one thing that I really was exposed to down there is just how beautiful people are when they're in a place of real need. And going through the challenges I've gone through in my personal life, even in the last 5 years, I have been brought to the kind of personal Haiti in my own life and realized, like, it's going to be okay. You get good people around you, like BT here with, it's just been like, there have been moments in the last couple of years where I've been carried and you brought me on some, ride down to Brasserie Centrale for the opening down there. That was a moment that the food nourished me, the friendship nourished me, and I was desperately in need of nourishment. And so it's just this magic trick between music feeds us. Should be pretty easy to have it flip and have events that are music related, videos that are music related, songs downloaded. Our last Michael Franti download that we did averaged $9 per download.
Wow, that's huge.
That's huge.
So people individually are saying, I want to bring this video into my life. I'm going to put it on my computer. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to share it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to spend this kind of money knowing that it's going to this organization, and they'll lay that kind of money down.
Unsolicited, and in the cheapest little internet way, I took the audio from that video and made the audio available to his fans. The audio is available through Bandcamp, of all things, through our website and social, posts. And it says $1, and then ghosted out real small. It says or more.
Yeah.
And I never said please pay more or anything. And we averaged $9 to download. One guy
just fantastic.
$50.
Wow.
A bunch of people $20. It's crazy.
That's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Michael is a kindred spirit in this sort of way of thinking, to throw some real solid glory in his direction. Michael Franti is just a world traveler and a world thinker, and one that has
Very
just
correct.
giving in heart that just permeates his soul.
Very courageous guy, and very leads with his heart big time. Yeah. Always the last guy to leave the stage at the end of the night after an hour and a half of just meeting everybody that comes up in their wheelchairs or whatever it might be that didn't have a front row seat. And even last time I was with him here at the Basilica, my sister-in-law at that time, who used to work at Lucia's and is a foodie herself, a great cook and great chef, was going through some health-related stuff, and he took a special time to make a little video for her and encourage her, and just a beautiful, beautiful guy.
That's very nice.
Speaking of Lucia's, that makes a really nice segue for me. The Best of Twin Cities food and drink categories came out, where it was voted for through city pages. Everybody voted, and They Have Spoken in Lucia's is on that list. Can I go over this list with you
Yeah,
guys?
let's do it. Let's do it, and then we'll learn about the Knead the Dough event that Molly's wrapped
Yes.
into, and also Paul's event that's happening this weekend.
So Lucia's was voted Best Neighborhood Cafe in Minneapolis. For St. Paul, that was Day by Day Cafe. Best Restaurant in Minneapolis was La Belle Vie. St. Paul, that was Meritage. Best Chef was Jim Christensen at Heyday. Heyday also won Best New
Well deserved.
Restaurant.
Nice.
Exactly. I think so too. Best Service was Rob Sandberg at Piccolo. Best Neighborhood Bar in Minneapolis is the CC Club.
Oh, how about
My
that?
Just talking about that.
In St. Paul, it is Ward 6. Best Brewery, of course, is my new job. Indeed Brewery.
is, huh? How
It
about
is.
that?
Best Coffee is 5 Watt Coffee. And Best Patio, because we are upon patio season, is W.A. Frost and Company.
Yeah, it's been a good one for years.
There's
yeah.
a bazillion categories to check it out, but it's a great insight to look into what's new, what's standard, kind of from Minneapolis St. Paul Fair, and classic for us. Lucia's has been around for a while. So,
Oh, my goodness,
But it's
yeah.
good to be reminded that we have really, really good food and drinks here.
Yeah, the food scene has really developed over the last 5 years. I think it really kind of exploded. And Jim Christensen was, voted Food and Wine one of the best chefs of 2015. So that's exciting.
We're into episode 10 of Foodie Friday here, and almost every show that narrative has come up, that the burgeoning food scene, the still exploding food scene that's happening here in St. Paul, Minneapolis, is, as you said, Molly, 5, it's 6, 7, 10 years old, maybe. I mean, but really a little more on the 5 side of things. You know, in this bigger fashion.
What I think I appreciate, having not grown up here, but one thing that was very evident when we moved here is there's a very grassroots neighborhood, celebrate your own, mantra that overlays the Twin Cities. And so no matter what has come through, over the years, you're still always celebrating what you had and still celebrating some of the new stuff and wanting to lift those people up. I mean, I look at the state fair as a great example, because when you go to other state fairs across the country, it doesn't look like the Minnesota State Fair. It looks very carnival-like and
county fair like,
and it's not celebrating the genesis of it, which is farming and the agriculture community, and that's where all of these state and county fairs started. So you guys are true to your roots. That's nice.
Paul, do you feel like that's similar in the nonprofit world? Do you feel like there's definitely a little bit more of a push from the metro area as far as supporting you and supporting this nonprofit endeavor of Feed Through Music?
You're saying keeping it local kind of thing?
Yeah.
It has been a little bit that way. I've done some pretty big projects, and this is just one of those, I think, laws of the universe sometimes, that it's very easy when you're trying to do good work to get lost in the lofty ideas of what could be, MTV and the Foo Fighters and Jason Mraz and blah, blah, blah. They're great artists, good-hearted people, but the connections have always been local. Like, I did a video with Train, for example, and I worked a whole year at it, and there's 6 million plus followers on social media, and I was convinced this was like my golden ticket. And I did a beautiful video with them. And I swear, the day it went out, I don't know if we raised more than $100. And then, like 3 days later, I played this very this humble little show at the 318 in Excelsior, which has like 60 chairs or 50 chairs. And we delivered about 7,500 meals in an hour and a half.
Gosh.
And I remember just going hearing Raul, are you paying attention? I think what I've discovered is that on social media, often people are very bored and somewhat depressed. That's why we're there. When you have people actually put their cell phones down and participate in something, whether it's cooking together or, eating and experiencing a show together, the nature of human beings right now, even with this millennial intelligence thing happening, is that it is such a high level of generosity and empathy that is only accessed through true connection. It doesn't happen on social at the same frequency. And so my attention through that event, even though we still do music videos and that kind of thing, that's more for street cred. And where the rubber hits the road is like this event Sunday night. We're doing this at the 318, a very small little venue. Jeremy Messersmith is coming to play for about 45 minutes. I'll play about 45 minutes. But because it's a real event, the vast majority of giving is done before the show even starts. Mm-hmm. And because they know it's happening and Jeremy's open to it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this would be a good time. And if we didn't have this event and I was just calling saying, hey, I'm trying to hit my number for the month, I'd have less than 10% of the giving of what's happening. So there's something very magical about real people doing real things and good people doing good things and people gathering around that and being able to participate in a shared effort. Yeah.
Well, and I find this in the food world, but in the music world, do you find that it's a small community here in the Twin Cities? And we were talking about this a little bit before the show, Lydia. You get all the big city accoutrement, but in a small town atmosphere. And so, yes, we have chefs that are, nominated for national awards, but you can still get to their restaurant.
Yep.
And they're still willing to help you out. And I would imagine it's a lot in the same way in the music industry. You might have Grammy-winning musicians here in the Twin Cities, but they're willing to help you out for whatever your project is.
And I'd imagine it's similar in the way too, and BT would probably be the expert on this, but it's so hard to get to 50 years old as a musician. And it's probably just as hard as a chef. And so the ones that do, whether it's the Levy brothers or whoever else, they are such supremely good people. And that is really what keeps the community small. It's probably not much different in New York and stuff too, even though it's larger, but there's a characteristic to the people who have endured and continued to bring such beautiful craft forward that you just kind of want to be in it and around it, and it's a gift.
The not so happy people and the less than admirable personalities, they do tend to slough off to the side. I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, kind of the decent, good folks that are the persistent ones and the ones that people are willing to be supporters of in the long haul. What time's the event at the 318 on Sunday?
Music will start for sure at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And Jeremy will probably start around 9. But
and through your website, there's more information. You can make a donation right now, too, through the website, huh?
If you go, I don't believe there's any presence about this particular show at the website.
Okay.
The room is just small enough that it's pretty much word of mouth. But anyone's welcome to come. If you want to go to Feed Them With Music, and it is a .com, not .org, feedthemwithmusic.com, you can just click on making a donation there, and 100% of the donations will be added to that event between now and that event, and 100% of it goes to the feeding. Every dollar delivers at least 3 meals, depending on the cost of rice. That's the biggest deal. But it's always at least 3, sometimes up to 4 meals per dollar.
Yeah, and the only meal that many of these kids get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Molly, you're involved with the Minneapolis Public Schools event that's happening this coming Sunday. Knead the Dough. Knead.
Isn't that a clever play on words?
I love it, even though it's not a baking thing, because the idea here is to raise some money for a 500-gallon giant kettle chiller for cooking and chilling food for Minneapolis Public School kids.
So I'm very honored to be part of the True Food Chef Council. There's a lot of chefs, restaurant chefs around town that are on this council, and we've been working with Minneapolis Public Schools for the last 2 years, working on getting better and more real food into the schools.
Yes.
And part of that is, contributing recipes or doing taste tests in the school, raising awareness. And now we're doing this fundraiser because they will need new equipment to actually cook food and not have prepackaged food going to our kids.
Boy, that's a big initiative right there. Mm-hmm. That's a great initiative right there.
I wish I had that. I graduated high school 2008, so that was not that long ago, but it was... I think
You're
there was
such a baby.
I am kind of a baby.
But you're right, Lyd. It was a lot of the
pizza's considered a vegetable argument.
Oh, yeah, pizza, corn, and ketchup.
Yeah.
Balanced meal.
All the packaging, all the frozen foods, and anything that can be thawed. Not cool.
Is that a big thing for the nutritionists at Minneapolis Public Schools to make that an initiative that begins with things like this, or maybe it's already underway, but certainly that's the thinking for the long haul then?
It is the thinking for the long haul, and I think Bertrand Weber is the director for nutrition services for Minneapolis Public Schools, and he, came in with a vision to turn around the nutrition services center and really get, more farm to school food, work with local vendors, educate kids on good food and what nutrition really is, and just feed them real food, not something that is plasticized and is not going to help their learning environment in whatever way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he's done a great job, and he's actually been traveling across the country talking about the success that he's had in Minneapolis Public Schools. So that's really fun.
I imagine there's a lot of districts that can use that sort of narrative woven into what they're doing.
Well, and Minneapolis is a large school district, so the fact that they're able to make these strides in such a large district, I think, is more compelling than doing it in a smaller district where you have more wiggle room and more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to think that you could have gardens at these schools, and these kids could actually.
Some of them do.
I know at the new Sopadep school in Port-au-Prince, the rooftops are gardens.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. And the kids get involved in the plants and the harvesting and the planting and everything about it. Yeah.
My son goes to Northrop, and they have a garden. They're not actually able to use any of the food in the garden in the school lunches. There's some city regulations and stuff like that.
Perfect.
But
that's awesome.
What they have allowed is they tell the kids to just go pick what you want and take it home, which
That's
is
cool.
They're growing it together. They're learning about how to grow it, watching it grow.
That's the biggest part of it.
And then they get to just take some home if they want it. And that's kind of fun.
And also demystifying good foods, being like, oh, well, I actually really like zucchini. I
Right.
grew this zucchini.
And I'm really sure nobody's going to chastise a kid for picking a cherry tomato and eating it on the playground if that's what happens.
I think
Right?
they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
The Knead the Dough event is at the Women's Club of Minneapolis this coming Sunday, the 19th, from 5 to 9. There's more information at Knead the Dough, Knead, kneadthedough.eventbrite.com. Chef Station, silent auction stuff, the whole 9 yards. It'll be a
Lots
big
of good
night.
stuff. And Jamie Yukis and Sue Zillickson are emceeing the event.
Nice,
So,
very good.
It'll be lively.
Mama Foodie and the great Jamie from WCCO TV Channel
Yeah.
4, who, along with Michelle Geyer, co-emceed the 4th annual Charlie Awards that we had last November. That
Yes,
was fun
they did.
seeing the two of them on stage
I remember
together.
a giant glass of something on the stage
Yeah, it
with
was a
them.
big,
something.
a big empty martini glass. that gives you a little idea of the tenor of their presentation at the podium there.
What are you talking
Hi, girl. How's everybody doing?
Welcome.
They were a lot of fun. Quick note about something happening on the foodie circuit here in the area. Anthony Bourdain, his Close to the Bone tour will be at the State Theater Friday, July 24th. Tickets on sale Friday, April 17th. HennepinTheaterTrust.org has more information about that. You know who I'm talking about when I say Anthony Bourdain, for crying out loud, Emmy Award-winning guy, world traveler, Parts Unknown, Kitchen Confidential, the Culinary Underbelly, Medium Raw, et cetera, et cetera. He is a hoot. I've seen one of these shows before, and one of my, I have a collection of photos where I ask famous people to take a picture of me and my pal. It always throws them off. And I began this whole adventure with Anthony Bourdain. This must have been like 5-6 years ago, maybe less than that. But all that being said, it was one of Bourdain's appearances at the State Theater, and we're hanging out, little pre-show, after-show thing. I don't remember what it was, but there's Anthony and my friend Rich and I are there, and I said, I want to try something here. Let's see if this goes. So I had my camera and I said, "Hey, Anthony, yeah, hi. Would you mind taking a picture of my friend Rich and I?"
Did he do a double take?
And he went, "Sure." I mean, it was just the best, because a guy
great.
like a Bourdain or whomever doesn't expect that to happen. So
Photo cred, Anthony Bourdain,
exactly.
right?
And of course, you show this picture of me and my friend to other people, and they're, "Oh, sure, Anthony Bourdain took it," and that's okay, because because I know.
You need to have
Yeah.
somebody planted behind
'Cause
the
I
famous
know.
person, taking a picture of them,
I-
taking a picture of you.
I appreciate
like
what
the
you're
whole
getting.
meta thing.
I appreciate what you're getting at there, Molly, but I like the fact that it's just but I know.
You
It's
know,
like-
it's your little secret.
Scraping the label off of a fine wine. Trust me, there's something going on in here.
But I know. It's time for the Foodie Friday 5. We ask our guests each week the same set of questions. And as we like to think on the show, some of these questions allow us to peel back the layer of the quote unquote foodie term, and so because we try to demystify it a lot on the show here, because we just like to hang out, talk about food, whether it's highbrow, lowbrow. There's a whole lot that goes into the term foodie. It's just a great word to use, and it doesn't always have to imply something fancy. Lydia, you get
No.
started. Who are you going to begin with?
I'm going to start with Molly. Molly, what's the first thing you ever made by yourself in the kitchen that you had to cook?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure it was something like eggs or biscuits growing up in the South, but what I remember vividly was I had gotten some sort of kids cookbook, and there was a peach Melba Napoleon something. It sounds really complicated, but it was not. It was like, puff pastry, peaches, whipped cream, powdered sugar.
Pretty
But
straightforward.
It sounded
Yeah, just
super decadent.
right. And I remember making that and being so proud to take it to the table. So that's probably, other than some more pedestrian stuff, that I remember.
What about you, Paul? What's the first thing you ever made by yourself in the kitchen that you had to cook?
It actually went into the my dad's cookbook that he put out from his oral surgery office, which is an odd combo. And I believe, I made
Is
it.
this
With,
about
this is-
peeling back the
it
layers?
was called a framed egg.
Is this
And it
with
was
toast?
you cut out the middle of a piece of toast, and then you put butter in there, and you make the egg in the middle of it.
I've never heard it called a framed egg.
What do you call it?
Well,
What's it
I've
called
heard-
in Florida?
I've heard toad in a hole, and I've heard hole in one.
Yep.
hobo sandwich.
Hobo sandwich.
I've never heard framed egg. That's so elegant,
like that.
actually.
By Paul Franzik. I remember writing it. Framed egg by Paul.
I was proud.
I've been ruminating on what my answer would be to these questions, and for this first one, what's the first thing that I made in the kitchen by myself that I had to cook? Most notable, I'm sure that it was an egg or like a pancake or something, but most notable was in a kid's cookbook, I found a recipe for risotto, and I was like, we need to go get saffron now.
The most expensive spice in the world. Let's go get it,
We
Dad.
need to get it.
We did, though.
And we did.
Yeah,
and I made it.
We went and got it. I was there because
Hey,
I
you're-
bought the saffron.
Here's a pro tip. If you're cooking with saffron, go to a Mercado and get the cut saffron. You can get like a gajillion ounces of it for, $1.29.
Nice.
No lie. For everyday cooking, it's the way to go.
I'm in. Molly, what's the most pretentious food that you crave?
Oh, pate.
All right.
I ate a dangerous amount of pate and bubbles in December past year.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. Paul Franzik, most pretentious food that you crave? Maybe it's that hobo sandwich.
It might be the hobo sandwich.
Or the framed
But
egg is the case.
Yeah, that's more pretentious.
Exactly.
Framed
No,
egg.
I really like. It's not so much a specific food, but places. I like to go and throw myself at the mercy at like brasserie and say, just bring. That's kind of most snobby I get. Like, just bring me what you know.
Oh yeah.
But you know
I have
I'll
no.
enjoy it.
I have nothing. I have no rules. Just
Raul has no agenda.
satisfy me.
Yeah. My menu's always broken at corner table. This is broken. It doesn't work.
I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it even would be. I'm sure it would be something from Russell Klein's kitchen.
There you go. Very
No
good.
shame in that.
Yep.
Molly, which person in your life taught you the most about food?
Oh, wow. Sort of a double-edged question because I grew up on a farm and my family owned a produce company. So I learned a lot about, the cultivation of food and what foods were available and what was really local and seasonal. So that was sort of on my dad's side. My mom always cooked at home and made some wonderful, wonderful things. But my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, I remember watching her make biscuits or whatever it was, and she never followed a recipe. And to me, that was just the most amazing thing, right?
Measuring in hands.
Yeah, it just
and
needed to
eye.
feel right. It
Yep.
needed to feel right. Okay, we need a little bit more of this. And so to me, that was sort of the pinnacle of being able to cook. And so there's a few things I'm able to do that with, and I sort of try to teach that in classes. I'm like, nope, we're just going to add this water until it gets to this consistency,
Yeah.
and then you'll know. And yeah, I feel like I'm channeling Granny O when I do that.
As a kid, I always enjoyed the consumption of the food, but I really wasn't into the cooking of it. And I regret some parts of that in a big way. And one of those echoes what you're saying right there, in that I didn't learn this from my grandmother, that she could, when grandma came over and stayed with us, she would make fresh bread. And she would just pull everything out and just make it. And just make it right on the counter. And I remembered enjoying watching it, and she'd give me maybe a little task to do, but mostly it was like, oh, Grandma, I'll just wait until it's done. I don't want to eat it with some butter.
Call me when it's ready.
But oh my goodness, my Grandma Sylvia. If only I would have paid attention and had her teach me how. I regret that to this day. So I'm with you, Molly. I try to remember and kind of put in my head recipes that I can just do like that. Yeah.
Paul, which person in your life taught you the most about food?
I'm going to go back to my sister-in-law, Carrie Roth-Franzik, who is at Lucia's. And ironically, right before she started dating my brother, a good friend of ours by the name of John Rickers dated her down at St. Olaf College. And John and Carrie are both, even though he lives in San Diego now and lived in New York for years, everything that Carrie ever touched, never had a measuring spoon, always, had these crazy scones and unbelievable meals that she would create. I learned a lot from just watching her reckless,
Just go
wild,
at it.
dirty kitchen, but everything that came out of it was extraordinary. And then, John is somebody that I'm in New York City and I'll be like, hey, I'm on such and such and such and such. What do you recommend? And he'll be like, that's too big of a question. I need to know exactly what. And you're near Gramercy Tavern. You need to go in there and get this and this on the menu. And he is right every time.
What a
That's
great
cool.
resource. That's awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got just 2 minutes left on the show, so we're going to have to be pretty brief on these answers. So here we go. Molly, the smell of this food makes you feel the hungriest.
Bacon.
Very good.
Or onions. Or onions.
Bacon or onions.
Yeah.
Paul, the smell of this food makes you feel the hungriest.
Anything on a grill.
Okay. Yeah. That going back to that steak thing. Mhm.
Keeping it quick. All right, Molly, what's your guilty pleasure food?
Potato chips.
Excellent. What about you, Paul?
Guilty pleasure would be something like Cheetos.
Yeah,
same
So
thing.
something crunchy out of a bag. Yeah.
I don't want
that
to
we
say
shouldn't
like,
be eating.
Yeah.
That
Give you some
demystifies the
sodium
foodie term
hit.
right there. Exactly. That'll take it down a couple of notches. That's our
My
goal.
blood pressure's kind of low.
I need me some
need a
Cheetos
little
or chips.
Cheetos.
Darn right I do. Our guests today on Foodie Friday have been Molly Herman from Kitchen in the Market and Taste Bud Tart Catering at the Midtown Global Market, and Paul Franzik, musician supreme, and the guy behind Feed Them with Music. Visit their website and make a donation right now. Help the kids out. FeedThemWithMusic.com.
Thank you guys for coming in and talking with us.
Thanks
This
for
was
having
really
us.
fun.
It was really great. Thank you, Lydia.
My name is Brian Turner.
I'm Lydia Turner.
Thanks for joining in on Foodie Friday. We'll catch up with you again next week here on the Alive and Social Network.
Goodbye.